This episode of Behind Kink contains mentions of ableism, bullying, and assault.
I want to talk to you about something that's been on my mind for a little while now. There's been this practice on the rope scene of using rope to create what people call grotesque shapes or ugliness in themselves or the person they're tying. They're contorting the features of the body, such as pulling back lips, bending the nose, exposing teeth. I'm not judging people who do this. I'm not kink shaming or explosion shaming. Hopefully this is the start of a conversation. I want to emphasise that our fears, our turn-ons, our explorations are more than just valid. They're really important. And if I've shared this with you, it's not because I think you're in the wrong. It's more I'm wanting to get a dialogue going about this because I know there are multiple perspectives. Why are people doing this in the first place? Well, it depends. Sometimes it's sharing photos from humiliation play. Sometimes it's creating a counterpoint to the more conventional beauty aesthetics you see on a lot of rope pictures. Sometimes it's a statement piece about their fears and insecurities. There's even been workshops about grotesque rope for Halloween. So why do I give a shit about any of this? Oh, it's complicated, but what I want to point out is that if you're pulling out an example and saying, this is ugly, this is grotesque, a lot more people than you think might have had to live their lives looking like that. Pretend you've had a facial disfigurement and you're on the outside looking into this. Does that sort of language and negative associations around physical appearance seem welcoming to you? We're on a scene which has placed enormous value on diversity, whether that be age, disability, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, even socio-economic. And this is fantastic. It's one of the things I love about the rope scene. However, I don't believe we're considering all sides of physical diversity. How widespread is an issue like facial disfigurement? Well, by medical definition, 10% of the population has a facial disfigurement of some form. And speaking to the group that I'm part of, out of every 1,000 children born, 1 or 2 are born with a cleft lip and palate like me. If you don't know what that means and you don't want to Google it, I probably wouldn't. Any of this part of the face can be born split open in a cleft shape. You might be thinking, how can I imply that this has anywhere near the same importance as something like transphobia, homophobia, or xenophobia? Well, firstly, I don't feel as though we need to see it as which discriminated group has it worse. I see it as sharing experiences and building empathy. You might think that facial disfigurement isn't all that bad, but like just using myself as an example, I've had to have 15 operations, 2 of which were major surgery. And we're not talking about cosmetic adjustments here, we're talking about the ability to eat, talk, breathe, and just not be in pain. When you think about how the world at large treats people like this, I'm not going to go into every shitty experience I've ever had, but the reason I started learning martial arts was when children at my school tried to reopen the wound on my face after I'd had one of my surgeries. One of my school teachers openly taught that facial disfigurements like mine only happened as a result of inbreeding. There's groups who fought for the right to abort children purely because their child might be born with a cleft lip and palate like mine. Now, I'm pro-abortion because I think that's the only sane option our society has. However, they're taking the discussion away from women's rights and bodily autonomy, and they're pushing it towards, is it fair for children who are born this way, like me, to burden society? If most people can have surgery, is this an issue? Well, the thing is, I was asked to join a support group for people with facial disfigurements, and they do role plays in there. And the sort of role plays they need to practice were things like how to walk into a shop and have a conversation, how to ask for something in a cafe. Like surgery or no surgery, some people with facial disfigurements aren't able to live decent lives as a result of it afterwards. One thing I want to emphasise, I'm not blaming people who want to explore grotesque rope or ugly rope. You might want to take control of your appearance, face something you're afraid of, but one thing to consider is, think about what you're saying about people who've lived through that and can't just take the rope off their face afterwards. Okay, that's me. I'm curious, do you agree with me? Does this match up with your own experiences? If you found this video useful and you want to support more like it, check out our Patreon. There's loads of posts over there. Bye bye.